Welcome to the Sunday, May 21st edition of the PFF Forecast. We have a great show. Brooks finally came through. If you were following along, he redeemed himself for the Masters bet that we had on him. We'll recap a little bit of our PGA Championship betting from the weekend, talk maybe a little bit about the majors to come. Then we're going to get into some football bets there. We're going to tackle the most passing, most rushing, and most receiving yardage props. They're up there on DraftKings Sportsbooks. We'll tackle those, get some best bets out that we'd like there. And then we're going to talk NBA playoffs and a little baseball with Judah. It's going to be a great episode. Let's rock. Viktor Hovland couldn't quite get it done for us, Brad. But I thankfully Brooks was available going into the third round after shooting 66 in the second. You could have got him at around 10-1. That's where I snagged him. I think you got him around 8-1. So we were all Brooks fans heading in. Viktor came close though. What did we have him to win? What would he have cash?
I want to say around 35 in that range.
I had 36-1.
There you go. So, yeah. I mean, the thing there was, and we talked about a pre-show. I guess we should clarify this to listeners. We'll do a better job in the Discord as well. When we give out this kind of tranche of players, a couple guys, if it's looking good early, and we had Scotty, Hovland, a couple other players in the mix, if a guy like Brooks Koepka shoots at 66, going into the weekend, and it's Brooks Koepka, like the live opportunities are very strong because you still get pretty long odds. You can kind of have a couple, guys in the mix. So fortunately, you and I were able to I basically broke even with all the various bets I had on that. But yeah, it is a nice way to fight your way out of a hole of a bit.
So we've struggled to convince Arjun to become a member of the golf betting group. Judah, how did we do with you this week?
I don't think he could have wrote me in any better. As someone who I don't think I've watched a single minute of golf in my life, and I was up on my feet, with Viktor Hovland on 13, which it just goes to show exactly how gorgeous. And I'm roped in, fully in. I'm super excited to bet this.
There's still two majors left to go. I mean, betting majors is certainly the most fun. There's a lot of cool ways to do it. Calcuttas are a very fun thing to do with golf, especially for the majors. I know Rufus Peabody has a well-known one. In fact, he has really made a name for himself betting golf. And, we talk a lot about betting the NFL because it's a lot of fun. We watch the NFL every single minute of it. But golf is one of those sports where I think there is a lot of money to be made there. There's a lot of data to be looked at. We talk about Data Golf, which is a great website, has a ton of really rich information to help you make some informed betting decisions. But I'll say this as well, I love live betting. Obviously, Judah, you do as well for the NFL every single week. Golf feels to me like the most fun sport to live bet. It happens slow enough where you can see how players are reacting. You can see it's just them, right? You don't need to take into account like 22 players. Like it's literally just the player and his caddy to a certain extent. And so that was where I think, that going from round to round and betting live there, you can have a lot of success. Obviously the matchups as well. And then if you can just identify the PGA club pro that's going to end up going top 15 and making a hole-in-one, you can be very, very worthwhile. We didn't call that one, but I think overall pretty successful tournament. Brad, I guess heading into the next couple of majors, the U.S. Open being played in L.A. Is it June? Yeah, it's
mid-June.
Finishes on. Yep. It finishes on Father's Day, I believe. Is next. Any takeaways from that heading into, or from this PGA heading into the U.S. Open?
Talked about it a little bit. I think there are so many live opportunities in this sport and ways to bet as you watch. We mentioned again pre-show, we were talking about even a simple thing, which honestly, I'm going to do a better job of just studying before the tournament even begins. But they were going off both of the 10th tee and the first tee this weekend. And the announcers on ESPN Plus were mentioning how the scoring nine by far, and I think you saw it all weekend long, there were more scoring opportunities on the back nine of this tournament. So they said that. I'm looking at the leaderboard and I was looking at guys. There were a couple guys, Kazuki Ika, that were went very low off the back nine. The guys that were like -1, -2 through their first 9 holes that were starting on the front nine, that list of players is a lot of guys that finished in the top 10 of the tournament. I mean, there were guys that were clearly, the ball striking was there, they were dialed in, and things were going their way. They weren't just kind of taking advantage of holes that everyone scores on. So more and more research and analysis of how can you find edges and find ways to very quickly, like it's kind of when people talk about form with soccer and stuff like that. Like in golf, you know pretty darn quickly on the weekend, is this guy dialed in? Is he hitting the ball well or not? I mean, for example, for Cam Young, our guy who's probably dead to me. I don't know if his friends, his cousins, my friends are also dead to me. But he was, every single shot was bleeding right. And the announcer was like, Cam Young has a natural draw, hits every shot left. He doesn't even know what's happening right now. That's how in the moment golf can be, where you can learn a lot about a guy in the first 9 holes of their tournament and act on it pretty quickly.
Yeah, no, it's a very good point. So a couple things. So let's look at US Open odds, because you can find them. I'm looking at them on DraftKings right now. Scotty Scheffler, the favorite, plus 850. John Rahm, 9-1. Rory, 10-1. Brooks is 14-1. I'm not going to lie. Put a little bit down on him just now because I think he probably should be the favorite. We'll talk about the course here in a second. Want to get a few thoughts. Justin Thomas, 16-1. Xander and Patrick Cantlay, 18-1. Max Homa, Colin Morikawa, 20-1. As I've mentioned, Max Homa reportedly has the 3 lowest scores ever shot at LA Country Club's North Course. He's from LA. I bet him at 34-1, back at the Super Bowl. He's now down to 20-1. Maybe still some value there on the outside. Victor Hovland, Cam Smith, 22-1. Hovland and Matt Fitzpatrick, along with Jordan Spieth, 25-1. Tony Finau, Shane Lowry, 28-1, as well as Dustin Johnson. That's where I'll stop reading. But anything kind of stick out to you, Brad, about any of those or anyone else, especially considering that course?
Yeah, the big one for me is, and look, he's the favorite, so it's not really providing a ton of value. But again, with Scotty Scheffler this weekend, he was lipping out putts left, right, and center, but his ball striking was the best in the field. I mean, maybe besides Brooks Koepka, who was kind of just very consistent, very accurate, very, not a lot of mistakes. But Scheffler's moving day Saturday, going 3 over. Otherwise, he was the best player in the field. And again, it was without making, like you said, he made his first putt over 15 feet on the 18th hole of today on Sunday. So yeah, it's not like it's a mystery. He's probably the best player in the world right now. But I think he's going to break through and win one of these last 2 majors. We'll dive in on some more players, but I need to learn more about LA Country Club and do my deep dives. But it's probably going to be, as US Open always is, it's a ball striking tournament. Here's one more kind of, lesson we learned. I put Shane Lowry as a bet. I had a couple of people in the chat, which I love. They were like, why Shane Lowry? I don't see that at all. His putting strokes gained was abysmal. He was hitting the ball well the last couple tournaments and finishing outside the top 35 tournaments in a row, but it was all because he could not putt to save his life. He had some putts drop this weekend and finished, I think, tied 11th. That's golf sometimes.
Yeah, it's putting is such a not the right stat to follow, right? Usually it does do a good job of determining who wins, but it's very hard to predict. A couple of notes on LA Country Club's North Course. There are 5 par 3s, 3 par 5s on this course. So it was an interesting kind of wrinkle. I think looking at some data around those par 3s would be interesting. A guy that did play well, he didn't play super well in the last round, but played pretty solid, who's 60-1 that I took a little flyer on here just going through is Tommy Fleetwood and Bryson DeChambeau, also 60-1. Both players who have struck the ball well, have the length, and can certainly hit their irons well. So enough golf talk. Judo, we've hooked you, so I'll expect you to come with with some insights as we head into the U.S. Open. Before we get into football, quick reminder that you can go to pff.com, get yourself a PFF Plus subscription, 25% off. Promo code Forecast, FRECAST. Get yourself prepared for the upcoming fantasy, NFL, and betting seasons appropriately. We've got some cool stuff coming up on the fantasy side that you'll want to make sure you have a PFF subscription for, league syncing capabilities that we've never had in the past, and a live draft assistant as well. Mock draft simulator also coming for fantasy, thanks to Timo Riske and all of the great work that he's able to do. You may have heard it here first, but that's because you're a member of the printing press and you get that type of information for being a privileged member of the press, which you can also indulge further in our Discord, which you should go join. The link is in the description. As Brad mentioned, we give out a lot of our plays there, and the members of Printing Press deliver some great value as well across all different sports and non-sports, honestly, betting activity there. So it's a great place to go and join us as we prepare for the upcoming NFL season. Okay, let's get into this here. So these are on DraftKings, and what we're looking at are player to have the most passing yards, most rushing yards, most receiving yards. And I think these are interesting because there's a lot of kind of conversation around both the ability of the player, but also what that kind of offense is going to look like. Not necessarily win the most games, right? But kind of be in the types of games that are going to be conducive to these sorts of yardage outcomes. Eric and I have talked about this a lot on this podcast with regard to like most passing yards. Remember the great Jameis Winston bet that he had, Dak Prescott as well. So let's start with most passing yards. We'll go around the horn here. I'll read off at least the favorites, and then we'll go Brad, Judah, and then myself. So Patrick Mahomes, plus 550, Joe Burrow, 6-1, Justin Herbert, 7-1, our Lord and Savior, Josh Allen, 10-1, along with Kirk Cousins. Tua Tagovailoa is 12-1, Trevor Lawrence 14-1, Jared Goff 16, Dak Prescott 18, Derek Carr is 20-1. Brad, what you thinking here?
Yeah, so one guy that's just off the list you mentioned, and it's the exact analysis you just provided, a guy that I think is going to be in a lot of shootouts, a lot of close games, playing a lot into the fourth quarter. The offense is not super conducive to throwing it a ton, but that is Aaron Rodgers of the New York Jets, who's 22-1 here. Look, we've seen the last couple of years, they try to be very heavy in the run game and only throw at opportune times, throw off play action, all those things. But the thought here is, yeah, that was in the NFC North against the, Bears, Lions, and Vikings, where they probably didn't need to throw a whole lot late in games, and also the NFC conference in general. You're now in the brutal AFC East and the AFC period. You also made this massive expenditure. You're not going to lose games because you're running the ball too much on early downs with Breece Hall coming off a torn ACL. Like, you're going to lose games because Aaron Rodgers is going to throw you into or out of them. So yeah, look, I get he's 40. I get it's not the offense is not the most, gunning offense, but they have a ton of receiving weapons around him. They can withstand some injuries. And I think they are going to be throwing the football a whole lot.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I think my concern there would be if Rodgers is still the offensive coordinator, he'd like take the play clock to the end, and you'll actually notice they have very few attempts. So I think it would be a lot of efficiency. But as you kind of said, all the pieces are certainly set up. I also like a guy just outside the range, and Brad, I thought you might be going here. That's Geno Smith at 25-1. I was pretty shocked that the Seahawks were 8th in the NFL in pass rate over expected, doing so about 3% of the time, which kind of the reputation is this team loves to run, but statistically speaking, they actually threw the ball plenty. Geno Smith was also the number 1 graded passer on deep throws by a wide margin, which obviously if you're trying to rack up yards, that's a great way of doing it, hitting a bunch of bombs. I also like the kind of way the Seahawks have signaled by drafting Jackson Smith-Njigba in the first round. This is a team with 3 great receivers. They're going to be throwing the ball. They have confidence in Geno Smith. They didn't draft another quarterback. And then one kind of point on the margins, but I think this might matter a little bit, is they drafted 2 rookie tackles last year, who historically rookie tackles struggle in their first year. I think you have to kind of bake in some projection of those guys getting better. Lucas and Cross. And I think that even just like an extra 1/10 of a second of time might make all the difference, especially for a guy like Geno Smith who loves to throw deep. And if you connect on enough of those over the course of a season, I think this is a bet that might actually be able to hit.
I like both of those. I generally, obviously, don't like going with any of the favorites. I like going with more the long shots. This one I think is middle of the pack here, but I think inappropriately valued relative to some of the guys that are ahead of him, like Tua, Trevor Lawrence, Jared Goff, and that's Dak Prescott. And one of the reasons that I like Prescott here is actually something that I think it was you, Judah, you were talking about last time we chatted, which is this kind of, do we actually believe like Mike McCarthy is going to just run the ball like crazy? And, in Green Bay, we didn't really see that. But at the same time, if you look at the investment that has been made in the offense for the Cowboys, and it would point to them throwing more, right? The big addition from an offensive perspective was at receiver with Brandon Cooks, not at running back, right? They didn't draft a Bijan Robinson, a Jahmyr Gibbs. They have Tony Pollard back there, who I think the entire team believes probably isn't a 30, carry a game guy. They don't want him to get injured. They want to keep him fresh. So I really do think this is going to be a very pass first offense. You also think about the kind of context for the Cowboys, right? They are going to want to prove that the investment in Dak Prescott is worthwhile. So I think they're going to give him a shot to either play his way into it or play his way out of it. And then they're not the favorite in their division, right? They're going to be playing, some games against some other good teams. There's a chance they're playing from behind. But I also am not terrified of the defenses in their division either, right? I think the Eagles defense still good, but not one that you're particularly scared of. They actually also had some losses on that side of the ball. You talked about the Giants and the Commanders as well, not defenses that scare me. Prescott's numbers last year obviously depressed because he was injured and did not play a ton. But I think everything sets up for him to be very, very pass happy. So I like him at 18-1. Any like super, super long shots that you guys think are worth taking a flyer on here?
Yeah, I've definitely got one. I think it's Sam Howell, 100-1.
You jump in, Judah, but yeah, jump in.
Okay. Sam Howell, 100-1. Look, we have very little data on him, obviously, but I think that's baked into the price. Here's a guy who throughout college had an extremely high ADOT in the one sample we had of the game last year against the Cowboys in week 18. He also had a very high ADOT. This is a guy who loves to push the ball down the field, and I think his receivers are built for that exactly. Jahan Dotson has like the 8th best separation on deep routes. He's one of the best contested catch guys in the league. Same with Terry McLaurin. Curtis Samuel, also a plus receiver on these deep throws. I can kind of see it if Washington just gives Sam Howell the reins. Maybe he has a couple good games early. I can see a kind of Jameis Winston type season where this is a team with nothing to lose. And like I don't think they're going to be particularly good, but I can see them racking up yards. Sam Howell has a cannon of an arm. If he puts it together, I don't think 100-1 is necessarily a fair price.
I mean, they have great receivers. I love that. I just wanted real quick, I want to touch on, because you mentioned something that I jotted down and forgot to mention, which was the seconds per play. And it's why I love your pick, George. Dallas was 4th last year in seconds between plays. This is where I was wondering, Judah, you mentioned if Aaron Rodgers is the OC. The Jets were 5th last year in seconds per play. Yes, some trailing as part of it. The Packers were 31st. So is Aaron Rodgers going to be the one dictating the pace of play, or is the New York Jets and Nathaniel Hackett? But that is obviously a key piece of this. And I do, I think Dallas, all the noise about the running the football, I don't buy any of it.
The Sam Howell pick is an interesting one. No love for my guy Sam Darnold, but that's okay. He'll surprise everybody. Let's go to the rushing side of the ball. So most rushing yards in the 2023 NFL season, the favorite, Jonathan Taylor and Derrick Henry, both at 8-1. Nick Chubb, 10-1. Dalvin Cook, hilariously, is 12-1. So is Josh Jacobs. Bijan and Saquon at 14-1. Tony Pollard and Miles Sanders at 16. Joe Mixon at 18-1. Christian McCaffrey, 20-1. Ramondre Stevenson and Breece Hall also at 20-1. James Conner is 22-1. And I will stop after this one because it is noteworthy. Justin Fields is at 22-1 as well. Brad, what do you like here?
I'm going to go last, Joe. I want to hear you guys' thoughts first. So go ahead, Judah.
Okay, I've got one just off this list, which is Travis Etienne at 25-1. First off, I think the Jags are going to be an absolute wagon this year. They're by far the best team in the AFC South. And also, when I'm looking at rushing props, I want volume, and especially that's going to happen with a team winning games. I also don't think the Jaguars are afraid to give the ball to Etienne a bunch. There was a couple of games in the middle of last season. He had like 25, 28 carries. They're willing to give him the ball as much as they need. Etienne is number one in rush yards over expected model. He's a good player, and also 8th in PFF breakaway speed. This is a guy who can break long runs. We saw that all over the course of last year. For a good team, if he stays healthy, gets enough carries, and it's just a good running back, I think he's got a shot.
Yeah, I like Etienne a lot. So I mean, I really like Nick Chubb at 10-1. That's a little rich. But I think if you compare him to, like, for example, the two guys, like, I think Nick Chubb should be the favorite here, is kind of what I'm getting at. I think they're going to run Nick Chubb to death over there in Cleveland, especially to try and protect Deshaun Watson. But my favorite bet here, I'm going to go way down the line, and that's a 30-1 bet. And I absolutely love this one. Kenneth Walker III. Kenneth Walker III was not a full-time player the entire time last year, but when he was absolutely dominant. The guy was killing people at an 85 PFF grade. Really, really impressive. He forced 40 missed tackles. That is more missed tackles than Saquon Barkley forced, and he had like 70 fewer attempts. So this guy's got the juice. Now, I realize that there's, we just talked about Geno as potentially a passing yardage guy, and there's some competitors in the backfield there. But I think the temptation to give the ball to Kenneth Walker is just going to be too great. And at 31, for a guy like Pete Carroll, like, I think Pete Carroll's looking at this and going like, hey, this is like, this is Marshawn Lynch like 2.0 for me. I'm not going to mess this up. I'm going to hand him the ball a ton. And so I love that. We just talked about his kind of forced missed tackle rate. But I also love this. He had 0 fumbles last year. 0. So when you think about the kind of confidence in handing the ball off to him, I think it will be super, super high. So I like Kenneth Walker at 30-1. Brad.
All right, you guys both passed the test. I think this market is comical, and I think you guys both nailed it. In either take one of the favorites. You mentioned Nick Chubb. I'm actually going to go with Saquon Barkley in a second, but I think a lot of these names on this list are hilariously high. Dalvin Cook might not be on the team he's currently on. Why is he 12-1? Tony Pollard is coming off a broken leg and is going to have 12 carries a game. Why is he 16-1? Miles Sanders going from the best offensive line in football on a team that had the lead in every single game they're playing in to a team with a rookie quarterback. I could go down 10 more names that their odds make absolutely no sense for why they're so high on this list. Breece Hall injury, Justin Fields the quarterback, James Conner on the Cardinals is going to lead the NFL rushing yards next year. Anyway, it's a hilarious list to me. So anyway, I think you guys nailed it. Either go long odds. Look, Alvin Kamara is going to be suspended for 6 games. He's 25-1. Anyway, soapbox exited. Saquon Barkley to me, I think there's a very good chance at this point he might be going into a franchise tag year. So there is a huge element both from his perspective and the team's of we're going to run him into the ground and really not have, which was already the case last year. Through the first 15 or so weeks of the year, they just ran him with reckless abandon. And I think you also saw last year, you saw last year, the loaded boxes they faced went down as the season went on. That might be because of defenses faced. I probably should have taken more time and seen if that was who they were playing against. But I think it also was just a continued respect level for Brian Daboll and a little bit for Daniel Jones as well. You add in a Darren Waller, you add in a couple tertiary receiving options as well. I think you will get more favorable looks, but you're still going to get 300 plus carries for Saquon Barkley. They added Eric Gray from Oklahoma in the 6th round, or maybe the late 5th round, I want to say. Not much, Gary Brightwell, Eric Gray, like not much competition there. I like Saquon Barkley at 14-1. Otherwise, I literally say maybe a flyer on Bijan, or you should be looking at 25-1 or beyond, because everyone else in that cluster is silly to me.
Yeah, I was having a hard time not laughing, like when I saw Dalvin Cook at 12-1, like, who is pricing this? Absolutely hilarious. I love some of the long shots here. I think with passing, it's harder to wrap your head around, like, Baker Mayfield really going to lead the league in passing, but rushing, it's a total, I think, really wide open, especially with the way that injuries happen here. So I'm excited to hear what you guys are thinking for some long shots. I'll give one of the long shot that I like here, and that's DeAndre Swift. You just mentioned it, Brad, who is going to a team with possibly the best offensive line in the NFL. That is DeAndre Swift, who was basically thrown out of a team that drafted him highly in favor of another player that they drafted highly. Who's going to have a chip on their shoulder? DeAndre Swift. I love it. I also think the Eagles are going to lean into that. Who is he competing for? Carries in the backfield there with the Eagles. I mean, basically it's Jalen Hurts. Like that's the reason that this is going to struggle to win if it does. But he's 60-1. 60-1 on a team that could be dominant throughout the NFC. To be clear, like his biggest competition for carries is the quarterback who was injured last year, who they're probably not going to want to have injured going into the playoffs. Like they're not trying to prove that Jalen Smith is the answer, just Jalen Smith, that I don't know how that even came up, that Jalen Hurts is the answer there, right? They don't need to do that anymore. So you can, I think, not give him as many carries this year. You can still kind of cruise into the playoffs, probably cruise into like a number 1 seed or top 2 seed, and be better prepared, I think, to make that playoff push without a hurt Jalen Hurts. I think that means a lot of carries for DeAndre Swift. I think it's 60-1. It's comical. Like I think he's got a better chance than Dalvin Cook this year, who's 12-1. But curious to hear you guys take Judah.
Yeah, I go with James Cook, 100-1. This is way down the list. He was really good last year. Dude averaged like 5.7 yards per carry, broke off a bunch of long runs. And I think here, I'm not so sure that the Bills are going to kind of run Josh Allen as much as they have in previous years. Kind of to what you were saying. Josh Allen was hurt going into the playoffs. I wouldn't be shocked to see kind of a schematic change there. They didn't draft a running back for the first time in a while. I think James Cook might get a little bit of a leash, especially if he's good early on. But he's competing with Damian Harris and the corpse of Latavius Murray. I think Cook, especially if he can take a stranglehold early, which I think he'll be given that opportunity. He's a good player for a team that should be leading in a bunch of games. Again, as we've said, I think he's got as good odds as suspended Alvin Kamara or Rachaad White on what's an absolute disaster of a Tampa Bay team.
Yeah, White was also one that I kind of chuckled at. So I have one that maybe you wouldn't qualify as a long shot, but he's outside the top 20 names. And I actually love this one. This is one that I went and bet as I saw it. That's Najee Harris. So look, Najee Harris, first half of the season last year, his first 9 weeks, he was abysmal. Turns out he was playing through a Lisfranc injury in his foot. He had a steel plate in his shoe the entire time. He had 0 games of 75 rushing yards. He had 1 game getting over 4 yards a carry. You look at the last 9 weeks of the year, he had 6 games with at least 75 rushing yards and 4 games with at least 4 yards a carry. Just a different player. And again, they did play some worse defenses and had slightly more favorable situations second half of the year. But they added Jalen Warren, the undrafted free agent last year. I want to say they did not draft a running back. If they did, it was very, very late because it's skipping my mind right now. Didn't sign anyone of note. And yeah, like if he stays healthy the whole year, they're still going to lean on him a ton. You add Isaac Seumalo in free agency to play guard. You add Broderick Jones in the first round, trade up for him. In my opinion, the best run blocking tackle in this class. Like they're going to run the football a ton and not put Kenny Pickett in a lot of unfavorable situations. But for me, he was awful the first half last year because of an injury. A healthy Najee Harris is going to get 300, maybe 350 carries. I love that one when I saw it at 35-1.
Yeah, it's a great point about the injury last year because I think everyone remembers that start to the year, and then like the end of the year for the Steelers was just kind of like, they already suck. Like Kenny Pickett's out there just kind of slinging it around, and he is going to get work. Like that is the number one thing you're looking for. I think here is like, are they going to get an opportunity to carry the rock? And let me tell you, maybe no one is going to get more of an opportunity. Maybe Nick Chubb to carry the rock like he will. So. Love all of those. Let's get to receiving. Most receiving yards in the 2023 NFL season. Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase, both LSU guys, tied at the top, plus 750. Tyreek Hill's 9-1. Cooper Kupp 11-1. AJ Brown 16-1. Jalen Waddle 18-1, as well as Devontae Adams. Stephon Diggs is 20-1. Travis Kelce, Garrett Wilson, Amon-Ra St. Brown, all 25-1. T. Higgins and Chris Olave, as well as CeeDee Lamb, are 28-1. Scary Terry, Devontae Smith at 30-1. Keenan Allen, Jerry Jeudy, and DK Metcalf, as well as Amari Cooper at 35-1. Brad, you want to start?
Sure. Yeah. So the first one I like that's kind of near the top of the leaderboard is Stephon Diggs of the Buffalo Bills. They tried to add some receiving weapons. They, of course, traded up and used a first-round pick on Dalton Kincaid. We've mentioned on this podcast many times, you don't produce a ton as a rookie tight end, even a good receiving weapon rookie tight end. I think he'll be a factor, but not going to massively eat into Stephon Diggs' target share by any means. They went out and signed Deontay Hardy, Trent Sherfield, some solid players. But frankly, I think mostly what they did was sign a lot of pass protectors, guard Connor McGovern. You draft Osiris Torrance in the second round, our highest graded Power 5 guard from a pass blocking standpoint. And like you mentioned, they don't want Josh Allen to run as much as he did. It kind of feeds into your James Cook bet. And then lastly, the same reason I liked Aaron Rodgers for passing yards. I think the Bills still, their defense, as we've discussed, is not very good, or not as good as it's being held up as. They can't rush the passer very well without Von Miller. I think they're going to be playing a ton of shootout football games throughout the entire season, and I think Stephon Diggs is going to get fed in a lot of those games.
Yeah, I like Diggs a lot there. I go with Amon-Ra St. Brown 25-1. I don't know who the secondary receivers are for the Lions, especially with Jamison Williams out. But it's Khalif Raymond, Josh Reynolds, Marvin Jones, rookie tight end.
Greatness.
This is not the same. Completely weak team. They're going to go to Amon-Ra St. Brown a lot. He, as it were, last year had like a 30% target share on his routes. The dude just earns targets at a rate like nobody else in the league. He was the number 2 receiver graded by PFF with no target competition at all. A guy who just produces at 25-1. I really like it. Especially the Lions, I think, made some good improvements on defense. They're still not, I don't think, going to be an above average unit. It's a team who's going to pass, and he's really their only receiver right now.
That's a great call. So if I were pricing this market, this is a player that I would have expected to be top 4, maybe top 5. I think right when you get past Cooper Kupp and you get to the AJ Brown territory, I go, why is this player not here? Because I love AJ Brown, but is he going to play enough to lead the league in receiving yards? Are they going to be down enough for him to lead the league in receiving yards? He's also competing with Devontae Smith, who is a very good player. Jalen Waddle at 18-1. He's competing with Tyreek Hill. How is that going to happen? CeeDee Lamb is how CeeDee Lamb is not top 5 in this market absolutely astounds me. I just talked about Dak Prescott, most passing yards. So naturally, I'm going to go and look at who is he going to be throwing the ball to. And I mentioned that they brought in Brandon Cooks. But if you think Brandon Cooks is as big of a target machine as some of the other players that these guys at the top are competing with, even Jamar Chase, maybe even to Justin Jefferson, you're out of your mind. And for a team that I think is going to be passing a ton, we know who Dak Prescott's favorite target is. And I think that the Cowboys have learned, and this is why they brought Brandon Cooks in. It's why I'm so excited about CeeDee Lamb this year, is I think he's going to play in the slot a lot more. And this dude is probably the best slot receiver in the NFL who actually plays slot really consistently. Tyreek Hill is another one of those guys that they put in the slot a ton and just kills people. But CeeDee Lamb should be in there a ton and should get a massive number of targets. So at 28-1, I would have considered betting him at 18-1. But at 28-1, I think this is an absolute steal. What am I missing, guys? I guess that he is so far down the list.
George, not missing anything. I had Dak for MVP and CeeDee Lamb for Offensive Player of the Year on a podcast 2 weeks ago. So I love I agree with you 110%. You're not missing anything as far as I can tell.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I'm really glad that that DraftKings posted these, because it's a long off season. It's hard to find fun things to bet on, and I feel like we've uncovered some value here. Okay, let's take a look at some long shots. Brad, Judah, where do you guys want to go?
Go ahead, Judah, if you have one.
I've got Christian Watson, 40-1. I think this is just a bet on talent play. The dude was 97th percentile in our yards after the catch. One of the best on deep passes, 99th percentile contested catch, which is not necessarily so stable, but he's definitely got the body type for it. Also probably going to be an unquestioned number 1 receiver. Maybe Romeo Doubs takes on a little bit of work. Jordan Love's definitely an unknown, but Christian Watson, as we saw in one sample we had with Jordan Love, might be taking 60-yard touchdowns to the house fairly regularly for the Packers this year. 40-1, I like it. And I have one more. This is not offered. I'm in love with Rashid Shaheed. I think the dude is an absolute baller. Unfortunately, I checked everywhere. No props available. The guy,
Oh,
basically every facet of the game has graded at an elite mark, whether it's separation on regular plays, on deep plays, yards after the catch, contested catches. The dude is an absolute machine. I see it as one of those guys who can come out of nowhere. I'm really, really, really hoping we can clip this in like 4 months from now when Rashid Shaheed is absolutely balling. Dude is, I think, an absolute stud.
how
Extremely
many
undervalued. I just pray we can get a market on him.
how many people can if you said Raheed Shaheed plays professional sports, which sport does he play for? I wonder how many fans could actually name that sport correctly. And then of those that could, who got lucky, how many could actually tell you what team he plays on?
Yeah. I'll tell you after the 2023 season concludes. I have a feeling everyone's going to know Rashid Shaheed.
Incredible. By the way,
Derek Carr to Rashid Shaheed. Get used to hearing it.
he's for anyone that's wondering, he is from San Diego, California. So he's from the right state. He went to Weber State and was an undrafted free agent who signed with the Saints. And yes, he can absolutely get down the football field. Brad?
Yep. So a couple that one I'll just throw out there. No analysis. Just D Hop is 40-1. If you think DeAndre Hopkins might get traded somewhere that has a good offense, maybe you just throw a flyer. I'll go with a different one. It's a massively risky bet because he has not played a whole lot of football, but let's enter a reality where Calvin Ridley was just like had a normal career the last couple of years. And you're saying, okay, you're coming into the number one receiving threat in Trevor Lawrence and Doug Peterson's offense. And you're the clear cut number one guy. Yeah, I like Christian Kirk, but Ridley's a better player. Again, if we're getting what we think we're getting, they should, their division stinks, but they should have some games where they're going to have to throw a whole lot. Their defense, you could argue maybe took a step back this offseason, losing Arden Key, losing some guys like Dwayne Smoot, who's, I guess, still unsigned, but nevertheless, I just think, again, there's total risk here, but Calvin Ridley, we knew this would be a phenomenal bet at 60-1.
Fresh legs. That's the way you spin
right,
it.
The freshest legs. The freshest legs in the NFL, Calvin Ridley.
No, that was actually the one that I had my eye on, Brad, and you make some great points. I just go back a couple of years to, hey, Calvin Ridley has a chance to lead the league in receiving yards once Julio left Atlanta, and no one would have batted an eye at you. So why? Just because he took a year off, like all of a sudden he's completely cooked? I mean, there's definitely a chance that it takes him a while, but to your point, like you're getting a guy that is certainly a wide receiver one talent at a price where you're seeing a lot of like wide receiver twos. So I think that makes a lot of sense. The other ones that do kind of stick out to me a little bit are the guys in Tampa Bay. Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, I do think they're going to have to throw a hell of a lot. If you could, if you had a thought on which one will be the go-to for Baker Mayfield, I think that could be a worthwhile bet. But I love Calvin Ridley at 60-1 as well. All right, this gets us nicely into a little NBA playoffs. I think we know the finals, although according to ESPN, the finals are going to be played between the Denver Nuggets and the Boston Celtics, because ESPN Analytics absolutely refuses to come off their priors and thinks that the Boston Celtics are still 65% to win the series and go on to play the Denver Nuggets. Absolutely incredible. They said that they were 97% to win at the start of the series. I just hope, guys, that ESPN finds a way to turn this into a sports book that we can quickly profit on. We have game tonight. We're recording this on a Sunday evening. So, Brad, there's no way this will come back to bite you. What are your thoughts on the Celtics Heat game 3 tonight in Miami?
Yeah, I mean, I get why the Celtics are favored, and it's up to 4.5 now. It was 3 at open. Honestly, it's just like, look, I mean, Tatum could turn on at any point. Hadn't scored in the fourth quarter in either of the first 2 games. Had 51 the game before that. Like, he's so volatile. Jaylen Brown, I think I mentioned this to you, like, off the show. People think he hurt his wrist on a throwdown dunk in game 7 against the Sixers. And that's why he always turns the ball over a ton, but he, like, forgot how to dribble the last couple games. I'm staying away because, like, if anything, I bet Heat money line or something like that. I get why Boston's favorite, but I have no faith in Boston right now.
The finals odds, by the way, so the NBA championship odds right now on FanDuel, Nuggets minus 165. The Celtics are plus 320, and the Miami Heat are plus 420. The Lakers 33-1, not surprisingly. But that is still no respect for the Miami Heat. They're basically saying the Heat are so bad that even though they're favored to win this series, they've got no shot against the Nuggets in the finals. And yeah, the Nuggets are really good, but that is interesting to me. Judah, we've converted you into a golf fan. And so that means that you also have to bet some basketball with us. What are your thoughts on
Well, I'm still mourning the one NBA bet I've made this year, which was the Lakers 27-1 ticket.
It's brutal.
Which is tough, and I probably should have hedged out. But look, just following the markets, I think that the Celtics are extremely overvalued. They've been huge favorites. Basically, I've been paying attention since the Sixers series. They had a really difficult time there. The Heat, conversely, I think nobody's given them any credit. Could have gotten them like 30-1 after the first round. And like, this was a team that was the number 1 seed last year. They beat the Bucks pretty handily. I don't think that happens by accident. I think it's time that actually believe in them. I'm fine to bet them to win the whole thing.
Yeah,
I mean, Tyler Hero. Sorry to cut you off, George, but like Tyler, I'm sure Vegas is factoring this in, but Tyler Hero could return for the finals as well, like an important piece of this Miami Heat offense.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt about it. I mean, and for as good as the Nuggets have been, and they have been really, really, really good, I think that the Lakers have gotten a little lucky to be where they are. And some things have gone well for them. They've had some players that have kind of played out of their mind in a couple of areas. So, I don't know that sweep or whatever it ends up being, a 5-game sweep, if that's what ends up happening, of the Lakers, should be that much overvalued relative to what the Heat have done. So I like Heat plus 420 as well. I will say the only thing that has kept me from crying during these Laker games is the fact that I've bet the Nuggets in every single one because of the faith that I have in the Lake Show. And they have not disappointed. I'm looking forward to an entire summer of Is LeBron Cooked? That's going to be really exciting for us to listen to. I think Stephen A. and Skip Bayless will have some really thoughtful things to say there. So at least we have that going for us. Okay, Judah, some baseball. You educated us last week. Keep it going.
Yeah. So we're gonna go back to the Mariners. We're gonna first start with 2 games for tomorrow night. I'm gonna take the Mariners minus 2.5 at plus 130 on DraftKings. They're going up against Kyle Muller. Luis Castillo struggled a bit in his last couple of starts against some good Rangers and Sox teams, but the peripherals look all the same as they have all year, which is a pitcher who's one of the best in the American League with around a 3 ERA. He's still generating a tons of swings and misses. The Oakland A's are an absolutely hapless team. Their bullpen ERA is 6.5, which is almost like a run and a half worse than any other team. So I'm pretty fine kind of moving with an alternate line against the A's. Kyle Muller, pretty bad lefty. The Mariners have not had too many games against left-handed pitching, but they have all the talent to beat left-handers with Julio Rodriguez, Eugenio Suarez. Jared Kelenic hits lefties very well. And again, this bullpen's an absolute train wreck. Runs can pile up very quickly. We're also going to go with the Reds Cardinals game, taking the Cardinals minus 1.5 at minus 110, also on DraftKings. Brandon Williamson, he's a prospect, but the dude in AAA Louisville this year has a 6.62 ERA. And that's not just bad at ball luck. The guy cannot stop walking people. He had 20 walks in 34 innings. He can't strike guys out, 27 strikeouts to get a very good start in Colorado. And I think combined with his pedigree, that is like a Baseball America top 100 prospect and a first good start, he's kind of being priced at a little bitter than he is. The Cardinals are red hot. I expect them to put a bunch of balls in play, get a bunch of runs. Jordan Montgomery, pretty solid starter. I expect the Cardinals to win here. And last but not least,
it sounds like you were describing real quick Steve Palazzolo's pedigree. Can't strike anyone out, walks a bunch of people, but looks great. Wonderful hair, awesome hair.
That's what counts, honestly. As someone who I think will go bald at one point, I can understand that. But to bless the people with one more feature, a little out of control, but that's how I roll. We've got a Chicago White Sox 250-1 to win the World Series. That seems insane. But
Wow.
this has there's a huge tails risk, which is that like if they stay, 8-9 games under 500, they're going to sell off their team. But this is a team who had some really underachieving pitchers. Lance Lynn was pitching. This guy's probably at like a 3.54 ERA. According to most advanced metrics, was pitching to a 7 ERA. Dylan Cease, who was one of the best pitchers in the American League last year, also pitching to a 5 ERA. Lucas Giolito also underperforming relative to his peripheral stats. And like their other starters, Mike Clevenger and Michael Kopech. Michael Kopech, who, by the way, threw 8 innings, 1 hit, 10 strikeouts, also former number 1 prospect. They have all the makings of a team that can make a deep run, which is like 5 really good starters, if all goes right. And their offense was really hurt for most of the year. Yohan Moncada's missed a bunch of time. Eloy Jimenez has missed a bunch of time. Tim Anderson missed a bunch of time. They're all back, or Jimenez is coming back soon. He had a adductor, what's it called? Appendectomy. That's what the word I was looking for.
Not adductor.
No, not adductor. Didn't hurt himself squatting. But the point is, if all turns well, they have all the upside. And I think that this is a team that was really good a couple years ago. On paper, it's pretty much the same. Again, it's a real long shot. But if everything goes right, I think they have what it takes to make some noise in a bad AL Central, I should say.
That would be awesome.
It is a bad division. It's true.
I'm on board. I'm in. I'm placing that bet right now. This was a great podcast. Thank you guys for hanging out. Love you all. Make sure you join the Printing Press Discord when you get a chance. And we will see you all on Wednesday. A teaser for Wednesday. We are taking the input from the viewers. Viewers want to hear how to bet on other sports besides football. And we are bringing in officially this year WNBA to the fold. We've talked about it a lot. The good doctor himself, Eric Eager, a huge fan of the W. I love the WNBA. It's a phenomenal product. Ben Brown, who is the brains behind WNBA model that we always reference, is coming on the podcast on Wednesday. We are going to talk WNBA bets for like 3 straight hours. It's going to be like Joe Rogan, but with the WNBA. Great podcast. So you'll make sure to tune in on Wednesday. That's it. Love y'all. Peace.